chapter with the schoolboys when Alyosha encounters Ilyusha for the first time, and the other boys, and the little boy who bites his finger is important again here in this whole book four, especially because it talks about how a good human being can become bad, and this question has appeared all throughout human thought. And I will just direct your attention to a movie, and that is Star Wars. Star Wars. If you are familiar with Star Wars is actually the story of Anakin Skywalker becoming Darth Vader. Especially if you think about the last three episodes. You see a child with beautiful eyes, with a beautiful behavior, and then that child becomes during his life someone who can murder children like Darth Vader. And in the same way, if you think of Hitler, or if you think of Stalin, or any other dictators, they were children too. And the question that appears in Star Wars and appears also here in this passage from the Karamazov brothers is, how does someone like a child, like Ilyusha, become hateful? And we are many times tempted to put blame on that person, to think that someone who is evil or who acts in evil ways is responsible fully for whatever he does. But Alyosha here says something quite interesting. He says on page 226, if you look, he says, "Even though I do not know you," Alyosha continued in the same quiet tone, "and have never seen you before, I cannot imagine that I have done nothing. Otherwise you wouldn't have heard me so much. So what have I done? Tell me what you've got against me." Now, certainly, he mentions here a certain kind of responsibility, the responsibility, an individual responsibility that someone has for his or her own actions. And clearly, Alyosha is not guilty. He hasn't done anything in a sense. But nevertheless, he assumes the responsibility that I think he and also Father Zosima assumes for all the world. Father Zosima says on page 206, when whoever he realizes, and that is the monk, whoever he, when, however, he realizes that not only is he worse than any layman, but that he is guilty before all, for everything and before everyone, for the sins of all men, individually as well as collectively, only then will the goal of our seclusion be attained. Alyosha comes from the monastery, so Alyosha has the same frame of mind. And Alyosha, did I say Alyosha? I think I said Alyosha. I hope I didn't say Ilyusha. So Ilyusha is the boy, by the way. Alyosha is one of the Karamazov brothers. So Alyosha assumes responsibility for all the other people, but this should not be understood in a juridical sense, or this is not to be understood. I think I said understand before. Forgive me. This is not supposed to be understood in the framework of justice. It is not about whether it is just or not to assume responsibility. It is not whether whenever I assume responsibility for all faults is legally so or not, but it's rather the responsibility I have as a human being because the whole humanity lives in me. And Alyosha truly acts in this way. Uh, so if someone becomes evil, if someone like Ilyusha becomes evil, this is not necessarily only Ilyusha's responsibility, but first and mainly it is my responsibility because I have brought into this world various kinds of evil. If I kinds of evil doesn't sound right. For some reason today I'm not speaking correctly. If I ever done so. Anyway, so the question here is in a very short chapter, how does a child become evil? How does a good boy become evil? Now extrapolate that. How how did Fyodor Karamazov become the man who he is? How did Ivan become the man who he is? What about Mitya, the one who's so passionate? Do we not all share this world? And somehow we are the way we are because we come this way, and then because we interact with other people in our lives. Do not understand me wrong. This is not about denying responsibility. This is not about denying individual responsibility. In fact, if I am responsible for the entire world, I am responsible for my own actions too. But if I look at someone else, I I cannot say that he or she is responsible for whatever he or she does, because I have already said that it is me the one who's responsible. So it's rather not lack of responsibility, but a really higher level of responsibility that puts all responsibility on me. You could say, well, this destroys a human being completely. Can you just imagine to carry all that guilt and all that responsibility on your shoulder? You are going to be demolished. But really, this is not about the guilt, but it's rather about the acknowledgement that I have a contribution into this world, and I can touch various people with my behavior. Sometimes we have various moments of despair in life, or we have various moments in which things do not go well, and in those moments we may be lucky, and someone comes to us and gives us a flower, or embraces us in a way or another. And doing so, that person saves us. It's not salvation, eternal salvation, or anything like that, but saves us in that moment from falling further into darkness, into lack of hope and lack of hope. Actually, I should just finish with that. Or at those moments, we may be not lucky that we get someone else who just pushes us, not even realizing who we are, even further into into the hole in which we are. Not even realizing that he or she does that. Not even thinking about it, and that is because that person perhaps does not have the presence that he or she may have to acknowledge that we are where we are, or just because that person is so much taken by his or her own problems that cannot at that moment embrace someone else and embrace someone else's problems. But in any way, so this problem, how does a good human being become bad, is not only the problem of this chapter, but is one of the problems of this book. But there is also the other question that is connected with this: how does a good human being, or how does a bad human being become good, or how does one turn from darkness to light, if you want to put it in those terms? So how does one uh, climbs out of the hole in which he or she is? Okay.